Okay, so good day, everyone, and welcome to Women in Data Science, Trinidad and Tobago's Fireside Chat session. Today, we have a number of amazing women data scientists and data enthusiasts in various domains across the world, and they're going to give us an insight into their experiences and perspectives regarding the data science field. I am with Trinidad and Tobago Ambassador Dr. Addison. Happy to have you join us today. And before we jump into this really exciting session, I'll just give you some short notes about who we are. So let's get started. Just ensuring that everyone is seeing my screen clearly. Yes?
Yep.
Okay, great. So today's session, we're going to actually inspire inclusion through our conversations. So before we do so, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, WiDS, as we call it for short, elevates women in data science globally. We celebrate, inspire, educate, and support through various means, such as conferences, datathons, or what we call a data challenge, podcasts, WiDS Next Generation for high school students, and of course, various workshops across the globe. And this year's Datathon Challenge, which actually recently concluded for the first Datathon from January to March, was based on equity in healthcare. For those of you who missed that specific challenge, don't worry. Another Datathon challenge is coming up from April to June, and you could also jump into that with your various teams. If you want to hear more about this, for those of you who are new here, feel free to jump into the widsworldwide.org page, and you can get all the information regarding the challenge. And of course, some of you may know, but for those of you who don't, we are the Trinidad and Tobago chapter of WiDS, and we host various workshops and regional events. We recently concluded a 5-Saturday virtual workshop series, which was able to help persons in the data science field, both within the Datathon Challenge and beyond, have some ideas of how to tackle large data sets using the various aspects of data science in terms of tools, analysis, and data storytelling. And just to get a context of persons in the room, we would like to just ask you about your background so we can have an idea of if you're a beginner, if you're absolute beginner, intermediate, etc. So I'm going to launch a poll. This is our little icebreaker poll. I know most of you may be familiar with it. And we can see, let me just get a perspective. We share the poll here, and we can see from you. Let me know if you're seeing it on the screen, right? So feel free to jump in there and share your knowledge in terms of what your background is. I know some of us are now joining as well. So I think right now we have about 67% of us are intermediate, is going up. 63% intermediate, 13% beginners. Oh, we have a mix. Experts 22%, 56%. So I'm going to once I think a couple more people have to fill it out, and then we will share the results. Great. So let me end the poll and let's see what we have. Are you seeing the results on the screen? Yeah, so we have about 50% of the room is intermediate so far. 10% beginner, 20% advanced, and 20% expert. Okay, so let's jump back to the main agenda for today. Right, so we have our wonderful panel of ladies who are going to talk to us about their perspectives and attitudes in terms of data science. Before we get to our speakers, just to give you an idea of the way the agenda will work for today, we'll have a chat with our data scientists within the first hour or so, and then hopefully a little bit of a Q&A and networking with our audience. Of course, even though it's a 120-minute session, more than likely we're going to take more than 90 minutes, depending on the number of questions we have from the participants. And of course, this is more of a casual session, so feel free in between if you want to ask questions in the chat, please do so. It's not an overly formal session. Our speakers will be happy to answer any of your questions. And of course, we will have some of our own questions that we'll be asking them to kind of give you some guidance. So before we jump in, let me just introduce my team, some of the members of my team. Of course, most of you may know me. I'm Dr. Leticia Addison. You can feel free to call me Leticia. Just a little bit about my background. Aside from being a WiDS Trinidad and Tobago ambassador, I'm a project officer and lecturer at the University of the West Indies here in Trinidad. We are in the St. Augustine campus, and I lecture statistics and mathematics courses. And also in terms of my background, I have a PhD in math and an MPhil statistics. I think by now you probably think I like math, right? And I've also done some certifications in data science and also involved in data science curriculum currently. And it's really been a joy to be leading the group from 2023 until present and expanding the team to some wonderful really wonderful, motivated, and driven women as well. So I would like to introduce you to two of my co-ambassadors, Ms. Rihanna Kandai and Ms. Priya Rambial, and I'll give them the floor to give you a context of their background. So Rihanna, you want to go first and just share a little bit about you and your background for the audience?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Just confirming that you're hearing me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So I would have completed my BSc in mechanical engineering in 2021, and I'm currently pursuing my MPhil in the same field, mechanical engineering. I currently work at UE as a teaching assistant within the department. And in my spare time, I'm a volunteer and a manager for the First Citizen Sustainable Minds volunteer program with MindWise Project. And I'm also a woman tech maker ambassador, along with being a woman and data science ambassador for this year. And I am also a fellow from the Community Engagement Exchange Program in 2023. And I will be completing a McGill UE internship this year.
Excellent. Do you see? Right. Yes. Rihanna, go on and tell us more. Tell us more. Rihanna has a lot of accolades. She's a really excellent volunteer. She really gives a lot of her time, and we're really happy to have her on this team to be able to assist us. Priya, would you like to follow Rihanna's lead and give us a little bit of your background as well?
Sure, no problem. So my background is not it does not have a heavy emphasis on the STEM field. I come from a background of psychology. I would have been introduced to this data science field last year where I participated in the data-thon, and this year I was able to help both Dr. Addison and Rihanna in terms of the ambassador roles.
Yeah, and Priya really does a lot of volunteering. She is great at it. She is a president of a team in one of her societies in her home community, and one of my past students as well. So it's really great to have her on board. She was one of the exceptional students in the advanced statistics course that I taught in the psychology program, the Masters for Psychology. So really happy to have this diverse group of women with me to help lead the team. And without further ado, let's jump into the introductions for our speakers today and their backgrounds, because they come from a diverse number of fields. So I'll have Rihanna and Priya take over now, and they're going to introduce our speakers. So let's get started. I'll stop sharing. Okay, so go ahead, Rihanna, take it away and let's start introducing the speakers.
So we have 7 really distinguished speakers with us today. And I think they are definitely excited to be here and also introduce themselves before we get into the questions. So can we start with Gabby?
Sure. Just confirm you guys can hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Gabby. I also share a background in math and a love for math, like Leticia. So I have a bachelor's degree from Fordham in math, and I have a master's in data science from Columbia. I worked in finance prior to getting my master's, and then I decided that that wasn't for me. So I went back to school and studied data science, and I've been doing data science probably for the past 8 to 9 years, and I've worked in many different industries. Currently, I'm working in like a creator e-commerce space, but I've also worked at private equity firms, startups, sales operations. So I've kind of, and also advertising technology. So I've bubbled around and have quite a bit of experience in data science. And also part-time, I'm a consultant as a teacher. I also teach seminars in data science, SQL, Python, machine learning. They send me out to, prior to COVID, it used to be that we used to go in person, but now it's more virtual seminars. And I do that for like CFA and like business students.
Thank you. And Gigi?
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. This testing. Okay, awesome, thank you. So hi, I'm Gigi. I'm an internal journalist at Epsilon. And while I may not like share the love of math, but I'm still here because I decided that I can do it and I've been suffering ever since, but it's wonderful. So so yeah, my background is actually in biochemistry, and then I transitioned into tech through data science, and then here I am being a technical writer for a data science and machine learning consultancy. So it's fun. While I'm not doing internal journalist stuff, which is basically technical content writing and being an R-Shiny advocate, it's more I'm technical writer by day and AI ethicist, learning about policies by night, and currently working with not like volunteering with ADIP. It's the Center for AI and Digital Policy, and so basically doing research around AI policies across the world. And other things, I volunteer with a lot of communities in data science, so I can't remember which ones anymore, so I can't like list them for you. But yeah, that's basically my background. I'm a crazy person that decided to move from biochemistry, and here I am. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll definitely talk about that transition that you made in the questions. Taz, you're up next.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes, so my background is actually a little bit different than data science. I am an astrophysicist. I did my bachelor's and master's both in astrophysics, and I was on the road to becoming a doctorate in astronomy, but things turned into a different direction in life, and I came out to be a data scientist specialist in computer vision, especially during pandemic, and it was a bit of transition for me, but I think that it was easier for me because I had experience from astronomical image analysis, which uses a lot of computer vision. So I started my first job at MD Anderson Cancer Research Center. There we looked into human brain MRI, chest X-rays to identify disease with computer vision algorithms. And then I switched to a few different industries, including retails, e-commerce, banking. I worked as data scientist there. And most recently, I joined a new job there. I'm a machine learning architect. It's a new position and it's a new developing field. So I'm very happy to continue learning and, kind of contributing to new and emerging sciences. Thank you.
Thank you. And Audrey.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm a sophomore in high school and I'm an aspiring data scientist. So I don't have any like work experience, but I do a lot of volunteering for like data science. So I've hosted like a datathon for underprivileged kids to try to get them into like learning Python and data visualization. And then I host a podcast where I feature WiDS ambassadors, and I have I'm the founder of a club at my school to teach data-driven thinking. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sarah.
Hey, hi everyone. So I'm Sarah Brunard. My background is in chemical and process engineering. I spent about 15 years in the oil and gas industry. I was a team lead of the process engineering department, worked on risk management, that kind of thing, keeping the plant safe. And for family reasons mainly, but it's never just one reason, I came out of the workforce for 6 years. I did run a business during that time. I'll tell you about that business just now. But during those 6 years, I did not earn a salary. so that I can be more available to my kids, right? But after 6 years of that, it's like, let's get some. So I decided to go into the field of data science, probably around like, let's say year 4, bordering on year 5. I took a data science boot camp. Code Up is the name of it. It's geared towards women. And so that's online distance learning because, again, it just goes well with family life and so on. And yeah, and then I did 2 internships. Again, one of those I got to networking on LinkedIn. The other one, it's something I searched up online. So both were remote. And then again, through networking. So, I have a theme here. Through networking, I got my first permanent job in a telecom company locally. And that's where I am now. So yeah, so that's how I switched. And on the side, I have a company, Smart Kids, and we teach kids coding. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you. And we're definitely going to get into that transition with you and your company with the kids. Up next is Tony.
Hi, good day, everyone. Really happy to be here. Similar to Gigi, I wanted to do biochemistry. My background, I did like biochem, physics all my life. And before going into university, I made the change to do computer science. And within like year 2, I said I want to do data analytics. Yeah, I heard a lot about biochemistry, especially where I'm from. The job market could be a bit rough. But yeah, I'm currently a data quality analyst at a bank, a regional bank. Yeah, I'm just happy to be in this field. I think it's a really flexible and fun field to be in.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mercedes.
Hi everyone. So my background is a bit more in the social sciences. I started off in economics and psychology and went on to do a master's in social psychology, which is where I really got into a lot of research and a bit of statistics. I moved on to work at the behavioral sciences unit at UE, doing research there as well. And then went on to education research at the Ministry of Education, which is where I currently work as an education research officer too. What I do there is quite a lot of data analysis. We look at the trends in students' performance across all standardized exams. And we also conduct a lot of research studies to identify what are the factors that are associated with student success, school performance, and that type of thing. And that work is what really led me to get interested in data science, because I saw how beneficial it could be to the field. At the time when I started, we were really using just very traditional statistical techniques, not very advanced at all. So I actually wanted to learn a bit more about data science and be able to apply it to this field, because I felt nobody locally was doing that at least in the Ministry of Education, they weren't doing that. So I started the master's in data science at UE. I'm currently a final year student. And my research is mainly in the area of applying machine learning to education and predicting student performance.
Thank you. So as we can see, all of our speakers are from different fields, different pathways to be where they are today. And hopefully we're going to touch on all of those as we get into the questions. So to begin with, Priya is going to start us off.
Yes, so let's get started into this interesting conversation. The first topic that we would like for you to speak about on would be that of your personal journey and your inspirations. The first question will go to Audrey. So Audrey, can you tell us how you became involved or interested in data science and what inspired your interest to be a part of this field?
Yeah, of course. So basically I began as someone who actually actively avoided anything related to STEM. But before my first year in high school, my mom encouraged me to take this week-long introductory probability class, and it was for middle schoolers, and it was taught by a female professor. And she had a lot of hands-on engaging like activities such as like analyzing social media data, and I thought that was really cool and fun and relating. So that really excited me into getting into probability and like something I was initially skeptical and intimidated by. And from there, I was given an opportunity to pass on what I learned in that camp to middle schoolers. And that day, Judy Logans, who was the former Women in Data Science co-director, was a keynote speaker, and she just encouraged us to check out the Women in Data Science resources and website. And once I checked it out, I was like, I thought their mission to bridge the gap in STEM, like reaching 30% representation by 2030, was really inspiring and something I wanted to be a part of. So I joined WiDS, and I guess what really got me into data science was like the probability classes introduction and the supportive WiDS community. That, yeah.
Great, thank you so much for that. Taz, we'd like to know as well what inspired you to specialize in machine learning architecture within your data science field.
Thank you so much. So machine learning architecture, it's kind of a newer field where you kind of introduce yourself as a full stack data scientist. So in job market, let's say 2-3 years ago, when data science started to emerge as a comparatively newer field, companies wanted us to look into data and create insight. But now, especially big firms like the one I work with, we work with federal contractors, they look for more into creating a solution architecture for your clients. So when your clients come to you, you have to create a business proposal, and we have to create the whole solution, like what kind of services we will use, how we can optimize cost, and how we can actually save them the best. So especially when you are in industry and you are utilizing data science, machine learning algorithm, it becomes more of a business-minded product than only learning the algorithms and knowing how to solve from a mathematical or research point of view. So I come from research background, so I definitely love research and learning new things, but I also thought to present myself or any other data scientist more marketable, we also need to have a little bit of engineering, software skills, architecture skills. So that's why I decided to join in a new field. And in my company, the designation is formally data science architect, which is more of a full stack position where you are a data engineer, data scientist, software engineer, machine learning architect, so all together. And this is really wonderful for me because I always wanted to learn a little bit on the software side, a little bit on the data engineering side. And this role gave me the opportunity to learn it as a whole, from research and algorithm generation to dealing with the clients and understanding how our research value puts ourselves also on the client-facing side. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that inspiring story.
The next section, thank you. The next section we have will be on challenges you would have faced professionally and overcoming those barriers. So the first question is for Sarah. What do you think is the best way to transition into a data science career? Would it involve participating in a coding bootcamp, pursuing a master's degree, or even obtaining data science certifications?
Yeah, great question. So I think it really depends on one, what stage of life you're in, and secondly, what it is you're trying to achieve. So for example, if you are a student, I highly recommend going after a more established education certificate. So that means whether it's a BSc or a master's degree, I highly recommend that. It's the best way to get in-depth knowledge and to be more competitive, when you're applying for jobs, right? However, if you're doing it much later in your career, like I did, right? So I transitioned over the age of 40. I already have, kids. I have a mortgage. I couldn't just say, oh, let me take 2 years and do a master's, or a year and do a master's. So that's why I went with a coding bootcamp. I will tell you that a coding bootcamp is not, in this day and age, things are changing. It's not necessarily that appealing. So I shared, with a fellow Trini who works in video, and I was just talking to him, and I said, hey, I just finished a coding bootcamp, and he immediately said, ew, right? I'm letting you know that if your aim is to go after a FAANG company or something, the first thing I would tell you, going after a coding bootcamp, not necessarily the best, way to get there. However, it does get the job done in terms of upskilling. I've seen coding bootcamps help people like myself. I have an engineering degree. So that in itself, and I have years of experience, I'm very good at math, right? So though, because I have those skills behind me, I'm getting additional skills with the coding bootcamp. I've seen people who already have a stats degree or already working in stats, as a statistician, etc., and they want to upskill. They do a coding bootcamp because they don't need extra certification. They might already have a master's in statistics. They just want to know the latest technology. A coding bootcamp works for you there. And lastly, regardless of whether you're really young or you're later in your career, no matter what, you have to stay up to date, right? So I would say certifications should be considered by all, right? So whether, so let's say you're younger, you're already in the workplace, you at some point you'll need to say, hey, let me do some online course, let me learn about this. Just like other people have said there, they found something was interesting, definitely. And if you can get something that is recognized, even if it doesn't cost too much, I'll definitely say, do that. So yeah.
And just a follow-up question to that, you were talking about boot camps. Where do you search for these boot camps? Is it on platforms like LinkedIn, or is it through connecting with other persons in the field?
Yeah, so that one in particular that I did code up, it really appealed to me. I think your learning journey has to be really specific to you and what works well. So I'm sure if once you start searching, you're gonna get a lot of, your social media feed is gonna, you're gonna find somebody who could say, just, you can become a data scientist by self-learning. You can switch to tech by self, just do these Google courses. The reality is the only people that can do that are super, super disciplined people, right? I myself was looking for a taught program that, I know I have to come to class for a certain time. Somebody's going to be, I have an assignment for a certain time, because I need that forced discipline, the framework to help me. So again, that choice is really specific. It wasn't a recommendation by someone. It was just searching online. I had an affinity for it because it was based in Spain and it was for women, even though it was because I spent a couple of years in Spain. So, it just appealed to me. They at the end, they help you to get a job. They give you tips, I would say, to help you get a job. And honestly, those tips are going to be around how you do your resume and networking. So it's really important if you do a coding bootcamp that you get that support. Because what people don't realize is that when you go to a university, a recognized one, that is your network, right? You know what I mean? Your classmates are your network. The fact that I'm sure if you attend even the University of the West Indies, the fact that TT Lab is linked to there, you do an internship with there, and then you can get a recommendation through there and the job opportunities. So just to be mindful for the younger people in the room that, even though they talk about networking, that's the benefit of going with an established university. Last thing about that, but don't dig your eye out. Don't get into a lot of student debt to do that university degree. It has to be commensurate with the value, right?
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Gabby. And that would be, have you encountered any issues with diversity and inclusion in your field? And if so, what strategies do you employ to overcome those barriers and to promote diversity?
Sure, yeah. Quite a lot, quite a bit, to be honest. Like I mentioned before, I used to work in finance, and that was a complete different ballgame when I worked in finance because I was doing a lot of analysis and reporting, and that's kind of what led me to leave finance because I had a math degree and I was never really fulfilled to go back to school. But once I entered the world of data science and technology, like I said, I've worked at so many different companies, and the demographic has been the same. It's always been like, I mean, we're a room full of women here, but that's never really the case where I've worked. It's always been like I'm probably the only woman with a bunch of software engineers, and that could have been because I was the shiny new object, like the data scientist back when I started in 2015. Everybody wanted to have a data scientist, but not necessarily that they knew what to do with you. So it was maybe like one or two of data scientists, people like me, and I was probably the only woman with software engineers. We're all usually like men. To be honest, that's just kind of what's been my experience. Regardless of where I went, that's what it was. Now I'm fortunate I'm in a company which is very diverse. It's actually probably 50% women, 50% men. And it's Texas based. So I'm in the US. But I'm in New York. But it's always been usually like men, 95% and women. Prior to working where I work now, I was at a company called EMX Digital, and it was in advertising technology. I was there for 4 years, and I remember when I interviewed, it was one other girl, one Indian girl, and she was excited to have like another woman that was interviewing. So she immediately loved me, and we bonded. And I tried, she was also working as a junior data scientist. So she had a boot camp course, like some of you may have like a boot camp course. So it kind of not became my mission, but I wanted to mentor her and to like help her because she was coming from like very junior role and like working on some visualization, some Python programming. So I still try to like mentor her, and that's kind of like my way of trying to help. And also through teaching, but I always try to find like if I see another woman in tech, I try to kind of like take her under my wing or try to help her with like anything I can just to guide her just so that there's more of us because I think it's difficult when it's not nothing against men or women, but it's just like women are more creative maybe in one aspect, or women can bring other things to the table that like men can't, and vice versa. So it's like just to make it more diversified, I always try to reach out to women if I see them or talk about it, or even that's kind of like why I joined this workshop and when I want to teach is to show other like young girls that it can be done, because it can be very intimidating when you walk into a room and it's just all male engineers or all male data scientists, because you don't have anyone else to like kind of bond with or like a buddy when you're younger or someone to like help you. It's different, right? When it's like more balanced, or when you walk into a room just full of men, it can be like very intimidating. So I think it's like for more junior data scientists or girls trying to get into technology, I think it's important to visually see someone that is a woman representing technology and saying this can be done. And look, we have a room full of women that are all from diverse backgrounds, but we're all getting there one way or another, or well in the same under the same umbrella. So that's kind of like my way of like trying to tackle it. And it's kind of like I think just personally like one person at a time, trying to help and trying to just show women that can be done, to not be the only one.
Thank you. And so now we're going to move on to career transitions and any advice that you would like to give. So just going back to Sarah, and your question is, having transitioned to data science at the age of 42, as you would have mentioned before, could you share your insights on making such a significant career pivot later in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think I shared a lot already, but basically, number one, like, don't be afraid. I mean, if you're nervous, that's super normal. Number two, like most people in the room, except for Gigi, I think, if you are into math, I mean, you have to me, if you have to want this, right? I mean, if you're going to transition. So I think most people who are interested in data science love math, or there's some other aspect that you're really into, whether it's analyzing data or whatever. So particularly for me, I would say that it should be, especially if it's your second career, something that you love. I must say that this part of my career is so much less stressful than the first part, because I'm doing math all day. This is like the dream, right? So for me, it's just a lot of fun. So have fun with it. And then most importantly, don't throw away your old career, right? It's not like you've worked really hard, whether it's 15 years, 20 years, or 10, to build up your career. You've gained expertise. And so that really is your domain knowledge, right? So what I would say, I mean, so in my interview, I actually said, because the guy asked me, why should I hire you? I said, so first things off, I'm not going to code as fast as somebody else fresh out of school, but you know what? The insights that I'm bringing are going to be way more unique and way more insightful based on my years of experience in engineering, and my analytical skills. So you have to be able to understand what you're bringing to the table, because especially if you're transitioning, I can't say this enough, if you are transitioning with a boot camp, right? So it was a 6-month part-time boot camp. You compare that to an MSc or a 4-year degree, there's no way. So they're going to teach you exactly what you need to know to get up and running, right? For an entry-level position. By the way, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. I've started my master's, right? So again, you need to get a salary to start doing your master's, right? So, you can take it, so you'll be taking it a little slower, but do understand that once you've done the bootcamp, once you've decided to switch, you don't switch and then, oh, I know everything. It's continuous learning. And then especially in the field that we're in, I mean, you can go online, you'll hear, is data science dead? Is AI, do we need to code anymore? Do we, because at the end of the day, things are changing so rapidly. You will need to upskill in a short amount of time. So your journey has just begun. So that's the last thing.
Thank you. And a question for Taz. What advice would you give to someone who wants to branch out into the field of machine learning architecture?
Yes, so I actually like Sarah's points a lot. She is telling whatever always resonates with my mentoring and the way I always discuss with people about this. So branching out, as I previously mentioned, so it's not technically branching out, it's more like diversifying your portfolio or making yourself marketable to a broader audience. So as Sarah said, when you are in a MSc program or in a PhD program, your knowledge is very focused on a particular field, right? I was an astrophysicist. That doesn't mean that I know ins and outs of the universe. My focus is on a very particular field in a very particular research field. But when I went to that interview for my current role, it's not that I knew anything about machine learning architect at the very beginning, but that's the same thing I told my hiring manager. I have the subject matter expertise in some particular research-oriented domain that you can use my previous research experience and my perseverance and my continuous learning enthusiasm into your new field. You want me to discover something or invent something, that is where I come in, because I have already proven my expertise. I was in a PhD program, I have my master's. That means it shows my determination to learn new things. So I think this is one of the things everyone should keep in mind. I was very, very, I would say, prompted to go and get another master's in data science when I really wanted to switch, because I was like, okay, I have an astrophysics master's. How can I even make myself marketable to people who are like software engineers already, who are trying to transition to data science, because they have much more marketable skill. Like they can say, we are coders, just hire us. But you have to know your own strength. Like you have to know how you can sell your previous experience. And from my job experience, I can tell a lot of people who are working as data scientists or machine learning architects in our field, they don't have any data science formal education. They're all self-taught. Some of them took boot camps. Some of them took like those short Coursera courses. There are some wonderful courses in Coursera. I took few courses by Deep Learning AI by Andrew Ng, and I thought those are wonderful. They are self-paced. And as Sarah said, you have to be extremely disciplined for that. You cannot be mouth-fed, because you have to know when your lab is due. You have to do your own homework, but that depends person to person, right? You can go to a boot camp. For me personally, it was way too expensive and I could not afford doing that. But if someone can afford, that's definitely one thing. Going back to my first question about transitioning, I always tell people when you go in front of an interview, if you don't come from a data science master's, do not tell your interviewer right away that, oh, I have been doing data science for 3 months only, or I only took a Coursera 3 months course. Am I eligible? Don't doubt yourself in front of people who are going to hire you. Come with your own confidence and don't ever mention any timeline, like how long have you been doing data science? Data science is like a potluck, a few different sciences together. It's a little bit of stat, little bit of math, little bit of research, little bit of coding. So if you are expert in any of those previous fields, that being stat, math, probability, just advertise that fact, because data science is still a new field. 99% of data science is actually Googling around and trying to go and read research paper. Nowadays with all this LLM, you have to read few different research, what Google is doing, what Microsoft is doing. So the way I felt myself in the job market, that you have to come with your own confidence. I'm a researcher, I'm a scientist, an ML architect who knew about what it is. Even the person who was hiring me, he himself did not know what it would entitle at the end of the day. All he or she wants to know that you are up for the job. You are ready to go into the challenge. And that's the confidence that will help any of you branch out, or I should say diversifying your portfolio into any new different field. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question in this section would be directed to Gigi. Talking about your transition also. So how was your transition from the field of biochemistry to the field of technical writing?
Okay. So I wish I had all the solid advice I've been hearing all through this session already, but here's my side of things. So my transition from biochemistry to technical writing wasn't exactly expected, but it's been fun so far, and I'm enjoying myself. So initially, the whole idea was I wanted to be a hardcore data scientist or a software engineer. And then I interned a bit, delved into machine learning, and said I liked machine learning more than data science, although they're like related and stuff. And then basically like dabbling in different things, volunteering in different places, trying to build projects, trying to meet new people, taking courses, then working with a PhD student for a while on a self-supervised learning research project, then several things in between, even trying to like build a startup with friends. Like there's so many things that happen in between, and then also doing like a bit of VC stuff, which was fun and weird, but fun. And here I am doing technical writing. And then something I didn't know before, because I used to make fun of marketing people before, because I thought it was all like fluff, like people in a round table and like just gathering around and throwing ideas in the air. And then I joined Absalon and I realized that it's nowhere near that. It's like very analytics driven, because like everything is being tracked, everything's being monitored to understand if the campaign is working well, are people engaging with this content and things like that. So moving from all this stuff into technical writing helped me understand that data science is not always building a section model for healthcare or building something for computer vision. It applies to a whole lot of things, and also affects the way that you see and perceive things, because there's so many things that it just teaches you, and then you see that you just apply it in different aspects. So I'm just going to say that my journey from biochemistry to technical writing has been a very fun one, and I'm enjoying that I'm getting to see how data science applies in the aspects of marketing. And I didn't realize that marketing people had to like build dashboards for themselves. Like that it's so wild, and there's a lot of tracking. It's so cool. So yeah, it's a fun journey. And I'm getting to learn a lot of cool stuff, because the company I work for is around R, and I used to think that R was dead until I joined Absalon. And it's really, really cool, because I thought R was for like, oh, it's for old statisticians that don't want to use Python. And then I joined Absalon, and so that's really, really cool. So it's been a fun journey.
Thank you. And now Priya will have a few additional questions.
Yes, I relate with Gigi there, having to learn R myself. I like the passion about it. Moving on to the topic of skills, education, and work-life balance. The other question right now goes to Mercedes. Can you give us some background information on the MSc Data Science at UWE, and how does this data science field relate to that of education?
Yeah, absolutely. So regarding the MSc in data science at UWE, so I'm in the part-time program, but actually it can be taken part-time or full-time, for a minimum of 2 years. And during that time, you really take a combination of computer science and mainly stats courses. So there's like 6 core courses, again, a mix of computer science and stats, and 4 elective courses. And the topics are varied. So you would learn multivariate analysis, stats and probability, big data, machine learning, advanced algorithms. So there's a whole lot to learn. I would say it's very theory-based with a bit of practical work. But if you really want to get a full taste in the program, if you really want to get a full taste of data science, the process, the workflow, you really have to be very hands-on. You have to get involved in different initiatives. For me, with the Datathon last year, was a huge, it was a huge kind of catalyst for fully diving into data science, because while I had been learning bits and pieces from different courses, it was the perfect opportunity to put it all together. So I would say absolutely you have to get involved in initiatives like this, work on your own, and yeah, just keep pushing, because I think it's been mentioned here quite a few times that it's a process of continuous learning. So no one program, not even a master's, is going to teach you everything that you need to know. It's really more like a nice introduction to dive in yourself and really get that knowledge yourself. For me as well, what motivated me to do it, the master's specifically, I think Sarah had already mentioned, just being that personality type that needs a lot of structure. So that is one thing that the MSc does for sure provide, is a lot of structure and a lot of deadlines, which helps for me personally. I don't think it's necessary for everybody. Some people can do it on their own. But yeah, that's my experience with the MSc.
Great, thank you for that. And I like that you are incorporating it into your professional life in terms of the education background as well. The other question is for Tony. How has data science been applied to the realm of business, and what tools or technologies that you would deem to be important as a data quality analyst?
Thanks for the question. Starting with what I deem to be important in terms of tools. For data quality, I would start off with Tableau, anything that will help you with data visualization and telling stories in terms of data. SQL, I never liked it, but when I started this job, SQL was SQL, as other people would say, is something that you have to see every day. Excel is something that I never thought I would have to open every day, but it's another tool. Anything Microsoft is really popular in business. And in terms of like how it's being implemented in the bank, I would say right now we're looking at like customer segmentation, making sure that we know our customers better based on the data that we have on file. So I'm a data quality analyst for a reason. You could say that the data is not always what we expect it to be. It's really dirty. They don't teach you this really in school. Like they try to show you what dirty data is, but you won't know what dirty data is until you see it in the wild and you're like, what is this? and they tell you, like, as a data quality analyst, I would have to like find your root causes for these data quality issues and display it on the dashboards and reach out to stakeholders and make sure that we have like a plan in place to reduce these anomalies in our databases.
Nice, thank you for that, and thank you for showing us how those two fields are interrelated. To Gigi now, your question would be, considering your background in technical writing, how does that incorporate data science, and how would data science play a role in the future of writing and marketing?
Okay, it's a tough question, but I'll try to answer it. So how does data science, sorry, please could you repeat the question again?
Sure. Considering your background in technical writing, how does that incorporate data science, and how would data science play a role in the future of writing and marketing?
Okay, so when I started doing technical writing, it was more like a hobby for me because I was just like having fun, like writing about the things that I was building. And then moving towards doing it as a full-time role, it's lots and lots of analytics. And then that's when I realized that I wasn't just writing stuff and then throwing it into the air and seeing if it works. It's more like writing things, experimenting with different ways of writing, targeting different users, different readers, audiences and stuff, and then seeing how that performs and then tracking all this data. And then not just tracking the data, but the hard part I realized wasn't just even tracking the data. It's actually like looking at the data and be like, what does this even mean? So data science is heavily involved in the work that I do now, and it's so much fun that I get to practice data science in this like different kind of way, and it's forced me to like want to further upskill my data science and improve my data science skills, because I have to prepare reports. I have to look at what our marketing specialist is doing, and also like, well, he prepares the reports. I need to like understand what these reports mean and how they can translate into my work. So data science plays a heavy role in my work as a technical writer. And then how I think it will influence the future of writing and marketing. I think AI has done a really good job at improving things and also making things more sucky, in the sense that before I saw a LinkedIn post the other day that writing is the most affected job since ChatGPT and all these other AI tools came about. And I think that's very eye-opening, and also like tells a lot, in the sense that I feel this is not data driven. This is me feeling that I feel like it depends on what you're writing, because AI can only do so much. Like, let me say, for example, on my job, I basically create content on R Shiny, life sciences and machine learning and infra sometimes. So having a tech background and being able to like read through these things that ChatGPT generates, it's very, very useful, because you can't just like ask ChatGPT to generate this content and then you just throw it out like that. You have to like go through subject matter experts and also like filter out some things that sound too much like a bot. So I think like ChatGPT like forces maybe like technical writers, for example, to want to like have more explore more like embrace your domain knowledge. Like with my role, I wasn't particularly using my biochemistry degree that much until I got into like Absalon, and then we have like lots of life science projects. I'm creating content about life science. So I finally decided to use my degree, and then became useful. All the chemical pathways I had stuff in my head finally came to use. And so how it influence writing, I would say the future of writing is that I think it forces people to embrace new tools, embrace the domain knowledge that you have, whatever it is. I think someone already mentioned this, like you're not just like throwing away the years of experience you had prior, you're taking everything that you've learned across the years with you. So you apply everything, the knowledge that you have, acquire more knowledge, and then AI will make things more efficient and easier, because definitely does make writing way easier for me, and it helps with like brainstorming and research. So I would say technical writing, lots of data science, fun stuff, lots of numbers, And future writing forces you to learn more and build new skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights. The last question under the topic of skills, education, and work-life balance will be towards Taz. And your question is concerning your family life. How did you go about obtaining a work-life balance together with all of your responsibilities?
Yes, that's a very good question. And there is no short answer to that because it's a very personal experience from mother to mother, woman to woman. You probably have noticed today I had to turn my camera off so many times. That was not intentional. Today is Saturday, no daycare for me. So I'm home with baby. I put her in living room to watch some TV. She didn't like it, so she decided to stay in my office and destroy everything. So I had to occasionally get up and kind of place her in. She was just on my lap, now she's walking. So first of all, one of the things I like about being in data science or machine learning, it gives you an inherent work-life balance in a way that most of us can work remotely. So at least we don't have to go to office. It's most like a job-based, right? So we worked on project management. Your boss or your project coordinator gives you a job and you can do it from comfort of your home on kind of flexible time. Like before I started, excuse me, putting my child on daycare, I could not work in the morning time because I was home with her and I was in middle of taking care of my baby, which is a full-time job itself. So I had to stay awake at night and finish my job, which puts a lot of strain on a mother. And one thing from my personal experience, which I found, and I want to share it with you because a lot of women here probably have gone through motherhood and work-life balance. Some of you are very young and will have that experience at some point in your life. You all will become mothers, hopefully at some point. So my experience is I wanted to rely a lot on my relatives, my mother-in-law, to come and stay with me and take care of my baby when I do the job. Unfortunately, we all have to accept the fact that everyone has a life and they all have their own set of expectations, just what I did. So to be very honest with you, the first year of my child's life, I did not want to put her in daycare. I thought, why would I put an infant in daycare? I can take care of her myself and at the same time do a full-time job. That was a bad choice because I could not take care of myself. I did well in my job, but at the cost of completely draining myself. And then I relied too much on relatives who, of course, are not professionals, right? Because they have their own life. They will go on vacation someday and you will be completely out of every other care. So I decided to put her on daycare so I can do my job. And I know a routine that I will work in this particular time slot. And then she will come home and I cannot work for that time. And also it gives mother some time to do some self-care. One thing I understood being a parent, you will have a lot less time for your own self, for your own relationships as well, both social, relationship with your partner, your whole family. So it's very, very important to take help from professionals, daycare professionals, your maybe psychiatrist or counseling, which I did not do and I paid the cost. So I personally believe if I meet any woman, not even in data science, any other professional, I always tell them, be prepared for the journey you will be going through after motherhood. It's going to be a completely different journey when I was just married or just single. So embracing the new role. And when I talk to hiring managers or other women, I always tell them this is my skill, that I'm a parent, because I know how to do multitasking. I know how to be responsible because I'm not only working for myself anymore, I'm working for our future, our children's future, for the future of our society as a whole, because I'm also raising a new responsible citizen for future. So I'm so sorry. You probably hear what responsibility looks like, but this is reality of life. This happens very occasionally, but that's the thing. So working and maintaining work-life balance, being a mother, is extremely hard. But at the same time, you have to embrace that. Your co-workers and employers would be also very understanding if they have gone through that same experience. And I always encourage women. No, I am in a meeting. She knows that. I encourage women to be also empathetic and sympathetic towards other women. I have faced in my previous workplace that women who do not have children, they sometimes look down upon women with children. I don't know if you guys have faced that. They sometimes think that this lady is not compatible for this job. But be empathetic or sympathetic towards a fellow woman. When you see a mother working, I have immense respect for them now because I have gone through that and I know how much multitasking a woman with child has to do. So my salute to all the women who have gone through that path and I respect them more. I think motherhood made me more humble, if I can say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those personal and heartfelt insights. And I can say it's safe to say that you're doing a great job thus far. Now we'd like to move on to the section of professional growth and future insights. The first question under this topic goes to Audrey. How do you see yourself in the future as an aspiring data scientist?
Okay, so well, looking into the future, I'm still not really sure what specific domain I'd want to go into, and it would probably change over time. But right now, I would say maybe like healthcare. But I would say what remains constant is definitely wanting to like leverage data-driven insights for positive change. So maybe I would want to be like a data scientist for some sort of social impact thing. And I really like the collaboration and enjoy like the social aspect of presenting findings, and I think that's really fun. So I feel like working on something like a project-based initiative would be good. And I feel like I would see myself as maybe starting off as a data analyst because that's like the typical entry position. And also, as I mentioned before, I like doing projects. So I would still really want to continue to help others through projects. So I would want to use the skills I would gain as a data analyst and like share it with others, like helping through assist the WiDS community and teach like K to 12 younger audiences to get them into data science and foster their data-driven thinking. And I feel like I would also want to maybe like use my data analyst skills to conduct some sort of research and also continue the podcast too, because it's really inspiring to hear other women's stories like all of you guys. And also, since this field is really flexible, I feel like there isn't really a clear path or data scientist role I want to achieve. It's more so gaining the skills of like having the coding experience and statistics and applying it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can definitely see that you have a bright future ahead. The next question is for Gabby. You would have previously mentioned how you came into this field, but how has your role as a senior data scientist changed over the years?
Sure. So like Audrey said, like usually you start as a data analyst. That's kind of like how I started too. And I think initially you just get like smaller tasks, and as you evolve, you get like bigger projects and you start mentoring if you like that kind of stuff, which I do. But I think also because I've gone from like industry to industry, I think my perspective on what my career would be has changed because like I said previously, when I first started, there are many companies that want a data scientist but don't know what to do with you. So I think as your career evolves, you have to, number one, have the insight to be like, does this company have like a real role for me? Because I've been in positions before where they want a data scientist, but they don't really know what to do with you. So you might end up doing like some data analysis, some like POC, like proof of concept type of work, but not actually being in a role where you're doing like the full end-to-end data science and machine learning engineering aspect of the job, which is what I really enjoy. I enjoy working on one piece of it, but if I'm being completely honest, I enjoy building like end-to-end solutions. But not every role will, every company will be able to offer you that role, just because maybe they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have like the data architecture, or even the support or the vision. There might be some companies that just want you to maybe use AI tools or now ChatGPT, or implement different automated tools, but not actually build things from scratch. So my career has evolved because I've learned to look for those things and to understand what it is that I want in my career. Because maybe some people prefer to work on like, you know, project-based work, or maybe you might want to do more of the statistical analysis, or maybe you want to do more engineering. So now I want to learn more about like the end-to-end engineering. So I kind of know and have learned, I think I've grown as an individual to know where to position myself, which I think is one of the hardships of like data science and starting out, is finding a mentor or finding someone to like kind of teach you the ropes and understanding where to position yourself so that you get like a good experience and you get to learn beginning to end solutions, and not just like the data science, because we all said like data science is a very like wide area, and there's data statistics, there's analysis, there's also a lot of machine learning, but you want to be able to do all of those things, kind of like what Taz was talking about, like being able to be confident in your skills and say I can do the data science, I also have the skills to do the machine learning end-to-end thing. So I think not so much in terms of like small tasks, because those change from industry to industry, the type of projects and data you will see, but knowing what career, like where I want my career to go, what I want to do, and what company to apply to, or what questions to ask in the interview process. Will I have this exposure? Will I have this experience? Who will I be working with? What kind of data architecture exists currently? Because I've been in many situations where I didn't know to ask those questions, and I kind of got stuck in a position where I was like, you know, you don't really get to really do data science because they don't have the data warehousing or architecture in place. And I didn't know that these pitfalls exist because I didn't have anyone to ask. So it's like, it sounds really nice when you're interviewing, but then when you're there, you're doing anything but data science. And if your manager's not a tech competent person, then they're just going to throw you into meetings and expect you to do the coding, the meetings, the business understanding, and everything. So I think it's more about like having the insight now to know where to place myself and where I want my career to go. And I think that's also part of like mentoring, and when you're early in your career, it's to be able to ask for that mentorship, because you have no way of like knowing that these things exist. Like I had no way of knowing that there's companies that want a data scientist, but you're not going to be doing data science. You're going to be doing more like Tableau reporting. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I want to do machine learning and improve my Python skills, learn more about software development, machine learning, then I don't want to be doing Tableau. But if they don't have a data analyst, they're going to make you do Tableau reports because you fit in that bucket at that time, and that's what they need. So you have to know kind of where to position yourself and what questions to ask to be able to be in a position where you're actually going to learn what you want to learn and gain the exposure that you want to experience, as opposed to just saying I want to do data science, because data science from company varies depending on who's on the board of the company and what technology teams they have, what engineering teams they have, what data they have, and all the things in place. So I think I would say that's how my career has evolved, is more like me understanding more the landscape of data science and what exists, and not so much, yes, you know, from a professional and technical perspective, I've learned how to code more. I'm better at Python, R, SQL, all these different tools. And I think everything that everyone has said here about continuing to grow, to learn, we have to do these things. But I think it's also important to know where you want to go, as much as the emphasis on the technical skills.
Great, thank you so much. And given your wealth of experience, we are definitely grateful for all of your insights. We'd now like to move on to the topic of overcoming personal challenges. And this question is for Mercedes. So Mercedes, have you ever encountered the imposter syndrome? For instance, feeling like you don't know enough about data science compared to other postgraduate students? And if yes, how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think even before getting into data science, that imposter syndrome was something that just kind of followed me around. But interestingly enough, I would say from getting into data science, I think I've actually learned how to manage it better. Just because, of course, coming into this field as somebody who did not have a computer science background, or a math background. I had a little bit of statistics, but I still felt like, it was not enough. But as I grew more as I grew more in the field, I think I came to learn that the field is so broad and there's so many different skills that you could have. There's a huge wealth of knowledge, so nobody knows everything. And in networking and interacting with people working on different projects, I came to know that I think maybe Taz mentioned that a lot of it is just Googling, like going onto Google, seeing, what different solutions exist for your particular problem at the time. So I actually came to learn that it's more about the skills that you have and the mindset that you have. So once you have those critical thinking skills, once you have that ability to, identify a problem and identify what you need, find the information that you need, and really those problem solving skills, that's what's more important than the strict technical skills. So my code is not the most elegant, it still isn't. I don't know if it will ever be, but I've actually grown more confident in my ability to, see a problem, not immediately have the solution, but know that I have the skills to go out and find the problem and actually go and find the solutions and come up with a really nice solution. So I would say, yeah, it's more a mindset change in dealing with imposter syndrome and realizing that, number one, nobody has all the answers. And number two, just trusting yourself that you have those skills to figure it out. I would also say that along those lines of mindset, for me, what really helped, and maybe it's from my background in psychology, but thinking about having more of a growth mindset. So it's not about performance. It's not about having the nicest looking code or even the cleanest solution. It's more about just learning as much as you can, keeping a curious mindset, and just trying to build and improve on the skills that you have.
Thank you so much for that. And I definitely empathize with you, having felt the imposter syndrome myself. I'd like to now pass you on to Rihanna.
So next question is the role of resources and mentors, and this question goes to Audrey. So Audrey, could you identify any resources or mentors that have had a positive impact on your data science journey so far?
Yeah, so I feel like throughout my journey, WiDS has definitely been a very impactful and an invaluable resource because it's provided me with a network of peers and mentors that I can learn so much from. I especially want to thank Dr. Letitia because she's been such an inspiration and someone I look up to, like especially with all these events and impact she's hosting, like with this Fireside Chat to try and bridge the STEM gap. And I also want to say that I think family support has also played a significant role because they were there throughout it all, like encouraging and understanding, like during the good and bad times. And so in terms of resources, like media, I found that the New York Times weekly graphs are really fun to like analyze, and you can dive into a lot of different topics. Like I know they have posted like different topics like college admissions, social media impact, climate change. There's a lot of different topics, and basically you get like a picture of a graph and you get some leading questions in the article, and then once you analyze it, you can like scroll down and see how other people analyzed the data and interpreted it. And I think it's a great resource to just get started in data science and start exploring. And another resource I found that was helpful was like the WiDS podcast, because you can also hear and from other inspiring women in the field. And another thing is I think courses are a really good part. And so for me, I took one by Stanford and it was for like 21st century learning. And it just gave you a breadth of the data science, like it also fostered like the growth mindset, which is I think is a really important part when you're in this field. And overall, I feel like these resources have been really instrumental to shaping my journey and fostering my growth in this part. And I definitely recommend trying to find like a support group if you can, because once you have that, it's like you can fall back onto them, and then it's just really important to find your group when, especially if you're in like an underrepresented part of a field. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm definitely gonna have to check out some of those resources that you just mentioned. And we're moving on to the last section, which is the technical and soft skills section. So the first question goes to Gabby. What technical and soft skills do you think are the most valuable in this field?
Sure. I think what's been said from a technical perspective, I've used R, but right now for the last maybe like 6 or 7 years, I've used Python. So, and I'm not the pro coder. I was also anti-software development when I first started. Side note, when I first learned coding, like computer science was HTML and I hated it. So it's not something I ever want to get into. So for me to want to learn Python and R was a big thing, you know, and maybe like some of you share the same thing, but now I like it more and I'm trying to learn more about like object-oriented programming and coding standards. I'm in a team of data scientists that have like higher coding standards and probably like what most data scientists have. So it's up to me to like learn what these tools mean and okay, how do you clean up your code, all these different things. So I think wanting to continue to advance your technical skills with Python, R, SQL is also another one that's fairly simple, but it's also there's a difference between beginner SQL and like SQL on like Athena or different other tools like AWS. So having those skills, I've acquired those skills just by learning at work, right? So it's like continuing education by reading and Googling, like we've all said. So it's not like rocket science, we all know. It's just like Googling and figuring out what you need to do to excel to get to the next level, I would say, in terms of technical skills and what other big data technology exists. There's a ton of them. AWS Databricks, I'm using it now. I never did before. So it's also, I feel like every job is going to have a different set of tools that they use. The standard ones are these coding languages that we learn about. Again, visualization of Tableau, all these different things. And then for other skills, I would say is like what's been said here is like the will to want to learn and like that growth mindset to want to continue to learn and that intellectual curiosity. Like not just being like, okay, I know how to code in Python, but what can I do to improve? Or hey, they're doing it this way, let me learn what this means. So continuing to want to learn and to grow and maybe getting like other certificates. Like I'm guilty of not doing that at my master's, but I do read a lot and I try to follow a lot of tutorials and blogs and so on to continue to educate to see what's going on in the tech field because it's constantly moving. So definitely like curiosity and learning how to express and your findings and speak to stakeholders, which Audrey mentioned that she really likes. I think that's like a great skill to have because in tech you'll have a lot of data scientists and machine learning engineers that just want to put their headphones on, code all day and not talk. So I think like communication is key and knowing how to not be scared to talk or to express what you found, but also to people who are not technical. I think that's a very valuable skill because there's not a lot of folks that can bridge that gap between Python coding, machine learning, and explaining it to people who don't understand technology. So I think that's like very important. And you will find your way that once you have these skills, people will like you and they'll want to come to you because you can explain to them what this fancy math means in plain English or through visualization. So I think those are like all important. It's just as important to be able to communicate, to articulate as it is to want to continue to learn, to grow, and to find those technical skills.
Thank you. And my last question is for Tony. What are some common data quality problems that need to be addressed?
Okay, where to begin? I would say that data quality, the quality of the data really starts from the source, right? Where the data is being collected. A lot of times we would see fields that don't have any kind of rules to it. You could enter anything and system will accept it and will lead to a lot of inaccuracies, a lot of errors that are really hard for people to explain or fix later down in pipeline. Another thing that comes to mind would be data owners, like who owns the data. So when you're working in a bank, we have a lot of people inputting information from different applications. And when something goes wrong, nobody wants to take responsibility for it. And it's really not like being a data quality analyst. I would say it's not a job that a lot of people will like to do, because you have to run down people and ask them what's going on and talk to different people across the organization. So kind of like what Gabby was saying in terms of talking to non-technical persons, that's really a core function of my role. Talking to people at all levels in the bank really, really would highlight the importance of communication. And yeah, that will be it for me.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass you over to Priya for a final question.
Yeah.
So we have some bonus questions. These questions are open to everyone, so everyone can answer this question. The first question is, the International Women's Day 2024 theme is Invest in Women, Accelerates Progress. What are your views on this, and do you think enough is being done?
Okay, since I'm unmuted, I would answer. I would say in terms of Trinidad, we have been doing a lot in terms of like the initiatives, like this in particular. We also have the Ministry of Digital Transformation. I saw that they had like a program that was encouraging women to do more in technology, getting like free education in that. But when it comes to what they could do more of, I would say like in secondary schools, if we could have more programming or any kind of computer science courses being offered outside of the traditional sciences like biology, chemistry, physics. Because I did not know about computer science or data until I graduated from secondary school.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Audrey, would you like to share any insights?
Sure. I feel like one important part to like the International Women's Day is that recognizing that we are an asset, and then that we can work together to do great things, because we all have something to bring to the table. Like even as a high schooler, I feel like obviously I don't have as much experience, but maybe I can bring to the table like my perspective on how we should implement data science into the classroom, because I am a part of that community. And also, I think it does take time for us to make change and get more women into STEM, but I feel like definitely more can be done. So I feel like it's really important to definitely bridge this gap.
Nice, thank you so much. Sarah?
Sure. So so this theme, I have a completely different take on this theme, but I'll keep it narrow, simply to STEM. One of the things that Aubrey would have mentioned was that she got interested in data science because I think it was her mom, but I mean her parents, told her about this course that was running in probability. That in itself is super powerful. So as I said, my company, Smart Kids, we introduce coding to kids. And most times, and most times it's initiated by the mom, but both parents send their boys to coding camp. They send their boys to learn how to code, and not their girls, right? So I think, and this is more at primary school level I'm talking about. So I find, we actually need to have, like Obi said, things that are directed towards girls to get them interested in STEM. And Tony touched on that as well, right? So definitely, I mean, I must say, I must say I wouldn't, but I must say that just on a whole, the education system in most countries, with the exception of a few, is geared towards girls. Girls excel. In Trinidad and Tobago, most of the scholarships are won by girls. In every single discipline in the University of the West Indies, girls outnumber boys, except in engineering, not even in STEM. Only in engineering do girls not outnumber boys. So even though, you know, engineering, things like stats, math, yes, I do think we need some things geared towards there. But when it comes to the school system, I think, you know, we need more initiatives geared towards boys, right? And so that's a whole other thing. But now, what I find very interesting is that after university, that success that we seem to be enjoying in school, I'm not seeing it translated necessarily in the workforce. So as Gabrielle mentioned, you know, most, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Gabrielle, that most of your co-workers are male, right? So, right, or at least were for a long time. So even though we seem to be outnumbering them, you know, something changes. And I think it has to do with the framework under which we operate, you know. I heard, and I'm gonna get a little personal. I heard Taz mention, I mean, right, so Taz mentioned her challenges as a mother, and she talked about relatives. You know, I didn't hear her mention, you know what, you know, her husband or the male, you know, the father in that role. Similarly, I took, you know, a career hit, you know, for 6 years. Again, it was a mutual decision. However, it's a decision that was made in the context of, you know, the fact that, you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, women have 3 months maternity, men have 3 days. Okay, so we literally say, women, your place is here, men, your place is in the workplace, right? So the framework is set up like that. I'm a big advocate. I'm sorry, but once you ask me this question, I will touch on this. I'm a big advocate for parental leave. I think that, you know, men and women need about the same parental leave, because they are just as valuable in the child's life. And in particular, because men are missing, that's why the boys perform poorly in schools. It's because we don't have as many male teachers. That's why boys perform poorly in schools. So, and the fact that we don't have, you know, that framework for women in the workplace, it's why the success that they've gained in school doesn't translate into the workplace. So I think a lot of times so let's say from the governmental level, and you know, even like NGOs and so on, you know, you'll hear they are quick to promote things like girls in STEM, right? Because they know that there's an issue there. But, you know, I've gotten funding, Smart Kids has gotten funding for Girls Can Code. But we can't get funding for like boys because it's just not cool, right? But boys do need help as well. It's different, probably it's not necessarily in STEM, but it's, you know, in another, you know, in just education on the whole. And women need support, I think, a lot in the workplace. So things like this, you wouldn't believe how powerful the things that I've learned from Gabrielle and Taz in this session was to like my career. Like, I'm going to remember the things that they said like forever, right? I've written down some of the things. I've even written down some things that, you know, the younger people, Aubrey and stuff, have said that would help, like with Smart Kids and so on. So, and I think this is where we thrive. So one of the things that I mentioned is, that Gabrielle mentioned was that she chose to mentor girls, right? So mentor a fellow female. That's so important because that's what we need. I was a team leader of engineering for 4 years. And one of the things that I found was that I wouldn't know things that were happening. And it's not because the male team leads left me out on purpose. It's just that when they came in the morning and they spoke about cricket Like, I don't want to talk about cricket. They spoke about cricket and they talk about football and whatever. And then in those casual conversations, they said, hey, did you hear about this opportunity? Hey, did you hear, they'll have some office gossip or whatever that was critical to the politics and whatever. I was not aware of any of it. And it's not that they left me out on purpose. It's just that boys sign with boys, girls sign with girls, right? So what I did, I actually asked a female in the company to be my mentor. So we actually need to seek out mentorship. What super surprised me about Gabrielle is that she went the other way down. She sought out mentoring, right? Which is like, that was like, wow, okay, maybe I missed an opportunity there, when she shared that. So I think that even though we're seeing a lot of strides for women, I think that what we need are things like this, like WiDS, right? But I wonder who's asking the question for boys. What do they need? I don't have the answer. I'm just saying, clearly they need something. And I think from a governmental level, they can't solve one problem, but they need to solve both because, it affects, we need to solve a societal problem that's happening. And so, as I said, like Taz and myself with those career hits, I mean, if we involved men more in childcare and just said, hey, this is everybody's responsibility, not just one, maybe then we wouldn't have I'm guessing, Taz, I'm going to age you here, Taz, I'm guessing you're more closer to a Gen Xer like myself, maybe a late millennial, I'm guessing. But all of the millennials that I would have been senior to in the company I worked before, I don't know any of them that have children. None. They don't, right? Millennials don't have kids because they realize it's not worth it, right? It's not paying off. So yeah, so I'll stop there because I could go on forever. But yeah, so I just think that the problem with girls is it's not just a problem with girls. There's a societal problem that we need to solve together.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I see Taz has her hand up.
Yes, so this is something, this topic that Sarah and I are talking about and Gabby also talked about. I think it's one of the pressing things. So anytime we talk about women in data science or women in any AI tech or even overall in career, this is one of the conversations we have to have at the beginning. Like as a woman, our parents have so much hope on us. Like they want us to be carriers. They want us to be excelling in all fields as males do. But the problem is the society, unfortunately, either intentionally or unintentionally, do not afford giving women all the equal rights. From my personal experience, yes, I am a millennial. And to be very honest with you, in my workspace, all the people around my age, like when they look at me that I have a child, they're like, what is wrong with you? Why do you have a child? Like, weren't you enjoying your life? That enjoying life, this is a new thing because my mother, she was a working woman. She was a full-time school teacher. My dad was a professor. I don't know what enjoyment meant to them at that age because she had me, I'm the eldest child, at age 28. I had my first child as age 30, so around the same time. I personally believe that the way sometimes social media, our society, or people around us teach us about the way you should live your life, people are too influenced by that. That enjoying life is a comparatively new thing. What is enjoyment when you are only single or by yourself? Enjoyment is a whole concept. First of all, my husband, he is one of the most, I would say, best companion I could have in life. Today is exceptional because my husband works Tuesday to Saturday. So Saturdays, I'm actually at home with baby. So everything that happens on Saturday, I tell them I will be home alone with my baby. Just bear with me. Saturday, Sunday and Monday, we kind of try to share our responsibilities. So today my husband is working, but when I was working without a daycare, the first year of my child's life, my husband came home in the afternoon and he would take care of her. I was awake from evening to night and then I would wake up. So we were actually sharing our responsibilities. What I saw more in my personal life that, let's say my mother-in-law, my own mother, or other relatives, they were expecting to be a full-time mother, a full-time caregiver, a full-time wife, I mean, which is doing all the household chores and being a good partner. Society expects too much of women, but what do it offers in return? What do we get? Pretty much nothing. Like, you get criticism, and I should tell you, like in my workplace, as I told you, most of the young adult women, I got the most criticism from them. Instead of men, I actually faced it from women more, because they see women with children something like you are almost doing something against your own will, as if I was forced to be a mother. No, it was my own choice. And if someone is, that's their own personal choice and their own personal life. I'm not against women not having children or favorable of women having children. Everyone has their personal life, but we have to be respectful from what someone is doing. But in companies, sometimes it's even recommended that you are single, you are enjoying your life, you are so dedicated to your wife, you're so dedicated to your life, and you are so successful, independent woman. That image we are creating about women, it's empowering, but at the same time, we have to understand if we are emotionally helping women at all. So I believe it's wonderful that we want to empower women, we want them to become data scientists, AI, machine learning engineers, whatnot, but we also want them to have a good personal and emotional life. And we should not discourage women having all the facilities and amenities of motherhood or companionship in the name of freedom or independence or enjoyment, whatever we are advertising nowadays through social media. This is one of my very personal understanding, and I myself, when I first became mother with all the responsibilities, I told my husband, why did I ever want to become a mother? I was so happy just with you and enjoying our life, going on cruise, doing all sorts of things. That's the conversation, and that's the maturity you gain through your motherhood, to your parenthood. But as I said, that we need to also teach men and women equally about their own responsibilities, their roles in society, and as a whole, then we will have equal participation of women in all aspects of career and life. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much thus far for your insights, especially touching on important topics such as gender stereotypes and inclusivity. I would also like to hear from Gabby on this topic.
Sure. It's actually really interesting to hear that women aren't as kind to other mothers. I don't have any children myself, but from my perspective, like I don't agree, and I haven't really seen that in that way of like you don't have kids or you have kids, so you kind of like a burden. For example, in my old job, one of my coworkers, the other female coworker, she had a child, and when she left, we didn't hire someone else. We just made Gabby do both people's work. And when she came back, she was there for like 3 weeks, and then she took the other portion of her maternity leave. And I can't imagine if I go on vacation for a week, I forget how to code. I'm sure everyone here does, right? Like we're like, what do I do again? So when you come back from maternity leave, I don't know what that's like to have to remember how to code or have to remember how to do your job. I can't imagine how difficult that is. And I've seen it with my former coworker. She's also my really good friend. And I have the utmost respect for being able or trying to stay at home with the child, figure out daycare, work from home, all that. Like I've never experienced it, but I saw how difficult it is. So I can't imagine doing that to other women, but I have seen women, and I've felt it for women not being supportive of women. Not so much in technology because I haven't worked with that many women, but when I worked in finance, I worked, obviously there's men and women, and I worked at different companies in finance. And I remember one woman in particular, she was a mom and she went to on maternity leave. And when she came back, I was working for her, and she was kind of like a bully. And it's kind of like what you have to do in finance to get ahead. You have to side with the men and maybe bully the other little women that are just trying to come up. Like it's either you take the perspective of, I'm going to help you and I'm going to mentor you, which does exist, more rare,
or I'm just gonna stomp on you. And I have experienced that probably more from women than from men in finance. Not in technology, and I'm a little bit older now, so I probably won't stand for it. But when I was younger and I was, in my 20s as a kid, I didn't know and I didn't understand what that was. And I think that shaped my career a lot, and it probably shaped why I want to be a mentor and why I don't allow that kind of behavior, because I think it's toxic. And I think it's like women trying to get ahead because they're scared of being put down. I think it comes from like a place of fear and not necessarily personal, but I have experienced it personally, and I think it's a very difficult thing. And women have to fight with and stand with each other for this not to happen across different industries, not in finance, not in technology, where you don't bully another woman because you don't understand that she has a child, and that's a very personal decision, or whether it's because you're new and you don't have like a lot of experience. I don't think you should bully someone or look down on them because they don't have the same level of experience. I think women kind of need to stand up for women more. And, yes, men stick together, like we said. I've seen it, I agree with it, but I think women need to stick together too. Because I've experienced, women being against women in different forms. And it's not just when you have a child, it just could be because you're inexperienced or because women are trying to like get ahead and stay ahead of their like female counterparts.
Definitely. Thank you so much for those comments. I'd like to now pass you back to Dr. Addison.
Okay, great, ladies. I think we have had quite a session here. I mean, sitting down listening to you all speak has been very insightful for me as well, personally, on my own journey, and I'm sure for everybody in the audience. I mean, everybody so comprehensively answered these questions. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat or any comments for our speakers. In the meantime, I would say that you all are really going into the realm of really showing what we need to have as that supporting structure, aside from all the technical skills and all these other aspects that we speak about, that community aspect of where we see deficiencies in society and how things are handled with women in this arena, not just data science, but in general, is really crucial. And I mean, I was just looking at the chat and I was thinking, we have more women than men in the chat, which is great. But it would really be nice to have more men involved in these types of conversations with us as well, because that in itself will actually open up a new realm of their understanding of what we go through, as so many of you had mentioned, from not only Audrey's experience as a young one in school, but also, to Gabrielle Sarah's experience, it being woman seasoned in the arena now, and how we could actually tackle these things. I'm so overwhelmed right now with everything that y'all have said. It's really been such a great experience for me and of course for my ambassadors. I think Anthony is asking in the chat to any of the speakers, why do you think there's a discrepancy between the school system and employment opportunities? Is it more focused on one's ability to handle challenges that may arise on the jobs, perhaps? Oh, sorry, I missed Shannon. Sorry, Shannon. I'll come back to your question. Yes, so Anthony's question and then Shannon's. Apologies for that, Shannon. Anybody want to take that question?
Oh, yeah. So the first resource I mentioned was the New York Times weekly graph. You can just search it up, and then there's a lot of different resources you can look through. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Audrey answered Shannon's first question. Let me pose that question. In the meantime, there are two questions. So one to Mercedes. Actually, Mercedes, you want to take these two, one after the next? So based on, maybe you want to take the one with talking about the school opportunities, and then of course your requisite knowledge for the masters in data science, like prerequisite knowledge, sorry.
Sure. So for the first question, why there might be a discrepancy between the school system and employment opportunities, I think there's no one answer. There's a host of reasons why this is the case. Sarah would have already mentioned that whereas in the school system, there's a wealth of female role models. Almost all of our teachers in primary school, at least almost all of our teachers are female. Not almost all, but there's a very small percentage of males. And even in secondary school, like the female teacher population is almost always much larger than the male teacher population. Whereas in the workplace, you kind of see that flipped a bit, where a lot of the people in leadership, of course it's changing a bit now, but a lot of the people in those leadership roles are male. So especially in certain certain industries. So you see that, yeah, just the existence of role models who are, like you, who are your gender and that kind of thing, and are able to mentor you and pull you into the conversations that you need to be a part of. I would say that that's a big one. Also, just the fact that, I mean, for majority of the history, the working world was dominated by men. So I would say that that system is kind of set up in a way that allows men to thrive. It's not built in a way that takes women's challenges and women's ways of approaching the world into account. So I wouldn't say that so much that, that one gender is able to better handle challenges than others. I would say we tackle things differently. And because the working world has been dominated by one gender for so long, it's kind of geared towards that. And I see it changing currently, but I think we still have a lot of work to do. So that would be my guess for why we see that discrepancy. In terms of the prerequisite knowledge for the master's in data science, so as I said, my background was in economics and psychology. Most people coming into the program have either computer science or stats background, but there are a lot of people like me. So there are students who have a bachelor's in psychology or business. It takes a lot more work on your end, if that is your background, to get up to date with coding and your stats knowledge. But really, I think the acceptance is on a case-by-case basis. So they would look at your background and make a decision on whether you have sufficient knowledge, or they might recommend that you would take certain courses to get you up to date before getting accepted into the program. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would, apply and see where it goes.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Mercedes. I think Tony Marie also wants to chime in on it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to just answer Anthony's question with regards to why is there this discrepancy. And I think from my experience, like you just don't know. Like when you're coming out of secondary school and you finish do not computer science, but you finish do chemistry, biology, physics, or any other subject that's available to you in that school, you go into university thinking, well, these are my only options. I can't at this point pivot into data because I don't have any experience in it. And a lot of people would tell you, well, you need to have a certain level of experience before you get into it. And I got a lot of pushback actually because I wanted to be a dermatologist. And when I switched into computer science and then went into data, a lot of people questioning me, asking if I'm sure if I want to do this, or it's kind of hard, so they discourage you. So I think the reason is we just don't have that support from the get-go. Like even if you know about it, getting into it is still a challenge because a lot of people will push back since you never did it before, which is why I am an advocate for having these programs in place from way before university so that you can make a better decision before getting into it.
I like that you said that, Tony Marie. Definitely really makes sense to have, those avenues open to you, especially from secondary school. I think Gigi also wants to chime in from her end about it. Gigi, go ahead.
Oh, I think someone asked a follow-up question to Tony Marie, so maybe she could wrap up what she was saying.
Okay,
yes.
I see it to the chat.
Shannon, yeah, go ahead.
Run down people. So getting back to data quality, I'm basically like the police in the data space. I have to tell people what's going wrong or ask them why is it like this. So when I mean run down people, I mean like probably send them like a Teams message and say, hi, how are you going today? You know, like this could be anyone from like someone working in the branch to an executive. Just try to start a conversation with them in a friendly way because everyone thinks that their work is more important than what I do. And it's really just me trying to convince them that hey, I have this to do. Could you give me a moment of your time so we could discuss this issue? So that's what I mean when I say rundown people. And I'll pass it on to Gigi.
So hopefully I understood Anthony's question because the way I read it, I don't know, because like from what I got from the question is like discrepancy between the school system and employment opportunities. As someone that just like graduated like what it feels like yesterday, I feel like graduating, let me not talk about the school system in general because the school system in Nigeria is weird and different. So graduating from uni doesn't prepare you for nothing. Like you just come out like you don't know nothing because all you did was like theory and hopefully because I don't know about other schools, but we do like in our third year, we do an internship for a few months for a semester. And then hopefully you intern in a good place that makes sense because they don't really like treat interns like anything. So you could just be like doing nothing for those 6 months. And when you come out, you have like no real skills that you can apply. And then you're just like out there like trying to convince people with this zero skills that you have that you can actually like get a job done. And I don't know how it works in other countries because like in Nigeria, it takes a lot. So what I would say is that like I think there's a discrepancy there because like okay, I won't say that's being generalistic, but I think like from my perspective, finishing from uni, I think something that I'm happy I did for myself because my school prided itself in being an entrepreneurial university. So everybody was trying to like learn some kind of skill. And since I didn't have any the typical skills that were available at the time that looked like skills to me were braiding, learning how to be a tailor, a fashion designer, learning how to be a chef or a baker or something. And I wasn't skilled in any of these things. So tech came to my rescue, fortunately. So that's like, I'm happy I picked up this skill when I did in my third year of uni while like trying to do the biochemistry thing in the lab. I was learning tech on the side and then I'm just happy that I turned into a real career that after I finished graduating, I could have like more than a degree in biochemistry on my resume. I had like volunteer experience. I had like a part-time job I was doing that could fit into my resume and stuff like that. So I would say focusing on school only won't particularly help with getting employment, although it depends on the school and what you're studying. So again, taking what I'm saying with a grain of salt, I study biochemistry. So I would say that like while in school, I think something that's important is picking relevant skills that will prepare you for the job market because the job market is very competitive. Like sometimes I find myself thinking like I'm a random girl from Nigeria and I'm competing with people who are probably applying from the United States, applying from India, because we have lots of very smart people in India for some reason. And then there's just me. So I have to like put in the extra work to prove myself. And I'm not the only person who's probably from an unfortunate background. There are so many people who are also trying really hard. So you can't just afford to graduate with only your degree. You have to find some kind of way to differentiate yourself to fit into the job market and make yourself employable. And it's hard, but pays off, I guess. That's all I have to say. I hope it makes.
No, that really makes a lot of sense. Thanks so much for bringing that up, Gigi. That really is interesting, at least, you know, for your perspectives too, because I mean, we're speaking of from Trinidad and the school system here, but to hear from you all from different places in the world is really intriguing. Let me take the last comment from Taskira, because I know you have your hand up to round off the comments to this question.
Whatever Gigi said, that's the best thing I could actually tell to everyone, that do not rely on your university degree to get you a job. That's one of the first things I realized. And that's very intuitive in a sense that who are the school professors, even data science, even if you go for a data science degree, not even biochemistry, psychology, or physics, they are lifelong researchers, right? They themselves do not have industry experience. I'm sorry, Letitia, I know you are a school professor and you are a data scientist, but from your own experience, you can tell that if you have never worked in industry, you honestly do not know how to prepare even school students for industry, right? So industry and university, they are two different beasts. University, research focused, education based, they will tell you how to create a machine learning algorithm, how to get, let's say, 98% accuracy on your machine learning model. But 98% accuracy in industry is almost impossible. First of all, no one will believe you. If you actually come up with 98%, they will actually flag your machine learning model as flawed because that's not compatible with reality. So I would suggest, if you are in university, first year, sophomore, wherever you are, there are two different routes you can actually prepare yourself for industry. Go find a mentor who is in industry. Honestly, if you can find any woman or men in industry doing data science, machine learning, ping them on LinkedIn, write them a nice message, tell them, I want a little bit of your time to talk to you, have a 15 minutes chat with that person. What do you do? Learn something from the industry expert. If you cannot really find someone who would spare some of their time to talk to you, my suggestion is go to Coursera or go to any other online learning platform and learn end-to-end machine learning pipeline, or learn a real project that someone has done and put it in your resume. Do not probably write in your resume that you are a recent graduate trying to find work. Create and tailor your resume with a resume expert. That can be your colleague, that can be someone who has worked in industry. Do not rely on people to help you find a job who has never worked in industry. So as Gigi said, find someone who has already done some industry job, find them as your mentor. Some people have paid mentorship, some people will be good enough to talk to you because you are becoming friends with them. Use the power of your community and your network to find a job rather than just applying to 1,000 different jobs without knowing what you are really applying for. Thank you.
Oh, that is so key. I mean, Taskira, you really touched on it. I would just want to close it out by saying, you brought to mind that fact with the mentorship is so important. Even for myself, lecturing courses here in statistics, and then starting to work as a project officer in the education space and realizing it was two different things. You know, you learn the theory and then the application. And then I'm also part of this TT Lab group. Some of you could also visit where we get some of our mentors. Mercedes is one of them. And TT Lab actually brings industry projects to give them internships. And that in itself, and Sarah knows a lot about TT Lab as well. And that has changed the landscape. It has really changed my vision. It has really made me, and I mean, Professor Hussein is really one of my male mentors to support. He really has supported me in this vision that I had here to really bring that, you know, industry and the academic side to, because that's what we need to do. We need people to understand using the knowledge now, you need to understand what happens out there in terms of the business aspects and that sort of thing. So Taskira, you really made an important point. And I'll just like to say one more thing. LinkedIn has become such an important tool. I mean, Taskira, you have really, I reached out to Taskira because of LinkedIn, right? So for anybody who's in here who really needs to, you know, boost your CV and those types of things, professionally speaking, I think LinkedIn is a great place to make a lot of these connections and really build on those, you know, the career vision that you have as well. I think we out of time. I know Anthony has one more question for Mercedes, but we out of time right now. So I will leave Mercedes to answer Anthony with respect to this question about working in the public sector. But I would like to thank everyone for joining us. Ladies, it has been a pleasure. I'm quite sure the audience has been very happy to hear all your insights. Feel free to connect with everyone on LinkedIn. I put all of their taglines in the chat for you to click and connect with them there. And feel free to keep up with us. We have one more event, but it's in person. So sorry, some of our speakers can't join unless you want to fly to Trinidad on March 15th. We'll have a forum on data science at the university. But I just want to really thank you all again, and for my moderators, my co-ambassadors for being here, and for having everyone on the team really, you know, support persons. I mean, we'll put this out on YouTube, and, you know, it consistently is like the ball that keeps rolling for people to get motivated and inspired. So thank you once again, everyone, and do enjoy your evening, night, morning, wherever you are in the world, and we will connect again with you soon. Take care and see you all in the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.